Hollywood medium Tyler Henry is coming to Springfield Symphony Hall. Henry, who stars in his own Netflix series, is set to perform Thursday, February 26th for an evening of hope and healing. Henry says he's been getting mental images since the age of 10 when he foretold of his grandmother's death. Over the years, he's cultivated his talent and has become one of the most sought-after clairvoyant mediums in the U.S. Tickets go on sale this Friday, November 21st.